Okay, I guess we're going to start. Good afternoon, and I want to welcome everybody to our Nuns on the Ferry action. My name is Mark Hannay. I'm director of the Metro New York Healthcare for All campaign. We're a coalition of community groups and labor unions, professional associations, and faith congregations who believe that healthcare is a human right for all in New York and all in America. I'm delighted to welcome the Nuns on the Bus movement to New York City today. I'm welcoming you on behalf of a statewide campaign that we are part of called Restore the American Promise, where we are fighting to protect the very important social protection programs that exist for low-income families and middle-class families, our social contract that has evolved over the last century. We're fighting to restore tax fairness to our system. We're fighting for job creation, and we're fighting for a politics of economic recovery and rejecting a politics of economic austerity. That's right. Yay! This is a part of an action. There have been Nuns on the Bus actions all over the country, as I'm sure you're aware. There have been a few in central New York State so far. They're here in New York City today. They'll be going up to central New York and western New York the first part of next month, so we're getting the whole state covered. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you Sister Simone, who's with Network, a Catholic social justice lobby in Washington, D.C., who's been really spearheading this Nuns on the Bus project, and many of you may have seen her and heard her speak recently at the Democratic National Convention. Sister Simone.
Thank you so much. What a great warm reception here in New York City. It's an honor to be here. Our bus tour actually started June 17th in Des Moines, and we traveled through 9 states, 2,700 miles, 32 different community stops, and every place, that's the best I can do, but every place we went, we discovered that Catholic sisters are working with those at the margins of our society, those who would be most devastated by the Ryan budget that's been approved by Governor Romney and passed by the House of Representatives. And we went on the road to speak out against that budget. We know that there are alternatives to that budget, and the faith community in Washington, D.C. came together. The Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities came together and created an alternative, the Faithful Budget. The Faithful Budget Way Forward, you can find it online at faithfulbudget.org. But what it does is it says that there are alternatives. We need to be responsible about the deficit. We need to take care of our fiscal house, but the way you do it is not by cutting services to low-income people, not by hurting the working poor, not by devastating healthcare delivery systems in our nation, and giving big tax breaks to the wealthy, greater tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the wrong way forward. We know that the way forward is 5 simple words, and that is, which you can all learn quickly, reasonable revenue for responsible programs. So what is it?
Reasonable revenue for responsible programs.
That's the way forward. We as a nation must raise our taxes. I mean, the only way that we can make up for the errors of the past, for the things that we put on credit cards, is why we have to raise revenue to pay for it. That's the way forward. But we as a nation stand together as a people. We are not individualistic. We are not separate isolates who just have to take care of ourselves. We know that the way forward is based in the Constitution. The best of our faith and the best of our Constitution is the first 3 words. We know what they are. We the people. That's who we are. So we're standing up today for a faithful way forward, opposing the Ryan House budget, and making sure that those at the margins of our society are the ones we protect, not those at the top. They have enough protections. It's not about class warfare, but the 100% are all better when we take care of the least among us. That's why we're here. We're so glad for this great turnout, and we're excited to get on the ferry. Thank you so much.
Good morning, and thank you again for coming. It's just so great to see all of you here. I was asked to speak a little bit about what we saw when we were on the bus.
Who are you?
And my name is Mary Ellen Lacey, and I'm a daughter of Charity. I'm a lobbyist who rode along on the bus with Sister Simone and Sister Marge and the other sisters. And I think one story that I could tell quickly for you that brings home why we rode and why we need to continue to ride is that of Mikkel. We went to the Mercy Ministries in Philly, and this program allows children to learn how to use computers. They have daycare services for both children and seniors. It truly treats the poor people of our world as God would have us treat them. As God is inside them, God is inside us. We meet God by treating these people kindly and with decency and respect. Mikkel was a young boy there, and when he stood up to talk to us, he grabbed the microphone and he stood around the podium. He said, "My name is Mikkel, and I am a shining star." He said that he learned in the program that we are called to be lights for each other in this world along our journey. And he proudly stood up and said, "So I am a shining star." I think the story of Mikkel captures all of us because it calls us to do what we are called to do. This little boy had gone to this program. It potentiated him. It allowed him to be the person God intended him to be, and he recognized his responsibility to share his light with the fellow human beings that he met along the journey. And that's what we are called to do. Provide for others and light each other's way across this journey of life. The Ryan budget does not do that. The Ryan budget decimates programs that help people like Mikkel. Ryan budget justifies poverty, and there is no Catholic social justice teaching. There is no any other religious teaching which justifies poverty. So we are here to present a faithful budget, which would allow for all of us to be able to be shining stars for each other. Right now, I'd like to introduce Sister Janet Kinney. She's the Executive Director of Providence House. She's going to speak to you today about a local program.
And good morning to everyone here.
Good morning.
I am so happy to be here and proud to be a Sister of St. Joseph. And if I were to characterize my sisters in a phrase, it would be Sisters of the Neighborhood. That's how we were founded back in 17th century France. That's what our sisters did back in 1979 when they opened a house of hospitality in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, for women coming out of prison. And here we are 33 years later in one of the largest and complex cities of our country, where 1 in 5 New Yorkers live below the federal poverty line, where almost 20,000 children and 26,000 adults live in temporary shelter. These are our brothers and sisters, our nieces, our nephews, our sons and daughters. Our mission has always been to shelter women and children in need in hospitable, home-like environments, in transitional apartments and permanent apartments all over this city, where creating communities and transforming lives are our hallmark. But we are so challenged, like many of the nonprofits across this city, to serve the growing numbers in need with dwindling financial resources. We serve homeless families, mostly young families, single parents with limited skills, families like Juanita, who gave birth to her second child while with us, went back to college, got a job at a major New York City hospital, and now lives independently in her own home, caring for her 2 children. And we also serve women who have been incarcerated, one of the most forgotten populations. Aside from the stigma of being imprisoned, these women face the harsh realities of rebuilding their lives financially, as well as the challenge of reuniting with loved ones, children who are all too often split up. Because when the woman goes to prison, who takes care of them? Who holds that family unit together? More often than not, they enter foster care or are split between other relatives. And over 2/3 of the women in prison are women who have children under the age of 18. It's a daunting task they face, and we need to help them. And even though they face these terrific odds, many who are dealing with histories of mental illness, domestic abuse, they are survivors, highly motivated to do better for themselves, and they deserve that second chance. We are proud to say that while in New York State, the recidivism rate for these women is over 40%. At Providence House, it's under 5%. Now, isn't that something we want to support? But unfortunately, the public funding for this population is almost non-existent. And I worry what will happen to them if agencies like Providence House, like Our Children, who's here today, can no longer serve them. I welcome our government partners to join with us, become part of this success story. Yes. Women like Renee, who some of you saw in the New York Times editorial last week. She's here, I believe. Who with the support of places like Providence House come from these histories. And with our support, they become skilled nurses, home health aides, those office workers and executive assistants that work throughout this city. And so I ask you, help us find that way to support these women, these children who are our future. Let us not be satisfied with this status quo, life as it is today. Let us inspire one another to come up with those concrete steps that we heard today. Help them and us reach our human potential. And lastly, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could say about every one of us here, about the people across this city and country, when I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. In prison, and you visited me. And so it can be. We can encourage each other. And I just have to give you one last line. This morning I opened up my mail. There was a letter from a couple of the Kennedys in California, transplants from Brooklyn. And they say to us, I'm sure there are days that test your souls. Hold still when that comes until you can shift to a smile, realizing the glory and good fortune you have to be alive and doing such good things. So let us do that together. Let us be the voice for the voiceless. Come out and vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you, sisters, and all your sisters along with you. We're delighted to have you here today. Before we take any questions, I just want to explain what's going to be happening next. We're all, those of us, you're welcome. We're all taking the 12 o'clock ferry over to Staten Island, where we're going to be holding a community rally on the steps of Staten Island Borough Hall, which is directly across the street from the St. George Ferry Terminal, where the ferry will dock when it gets over there. That'll last about a half an hour or so, and then a contingent will be going down to visit the office of Representative Michael Grimm, who is a member of Congress. Part of his district includes all of Staten Island. Unfortunately, Representative Grimm was one of the two members of Congress from New York City who voted for the Ryan budget. So we're going to be going to talk to him today about the importance of protecting the poor and the vulnerable and the sick and the aged and the disabled and the middle class, and how a faithful budget proposal of the Faithful Budget campaign that Network and 30 other religious denominations and organizations have joined in to promote. Talk about how that is a better alternative to both solving our nation's long-term deficit problem as well as protecting the important social programs that New Yorkers and Americans and Staten Islanders rely on.
Amen. Amen.
So with that said, we'll take some questions. So please, when we finish, orderly, for those of you who are not familiar with the surroundings here, straight into the building. There are escalators that will take you up to the second floor. Just walk to the far side. It'll be obvious where the crowd is gathering, where the next ferry is going to be coming in. Just go join them. We'll get on the ferry. We'll take it over, and then once we'll get all off together and just walk out to where Staten Island Borough Hall steps are. Okay, any questions from anyone for the sisters? No, from the media. I'm sorry. We'll take questions from the crowd in a moment. Any questions from anyone here representing the media?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, sister, you made a choice to go to the Democratic National Convention and Cardinal Tony Dolan gave the benediction at both the Republican and Democratic National Convention. Do you feel like the faith community is split on these issues?
Okay, the question is, I went to the Democratic convention, and Cardinal Dolan went to both, the Republican and the Democratic convention, and do I feel that there's a split? No, our bishops issued a statement on April 17th that said clearly the Ryan budget fails the basic moral test. It is not the way forward for our nation. And so we stand with our bishops in opposing the Ryan budget that's been passed by the House of Representatives. The bishops took the lead. We just said it was wrong. We've worked against it for 2 years, but the bishops said it failed to pass the moral test. So we use their language now. And the fact is, the fact is that it's not good for us as people of faith, and it's not good for our nation. We tried to go to the Republican convention also. We did 2 workshops in Charlotte. We tried to do those same workshops in Tampa. We never got a response from the Republican convention. We tried to get into some churches there. We were unsuccessful. So we tried our best to be at both. There was a welcoming at the Democratic convention, and we were honored to do it. But we stand with our bishops on this issue. It is abundantly clear it's wrong, and we're with our bishops on it. There's no split. Thank you.